So I'm trying to keep this video relatively short. The first thing I'm going to cover, and really the main topic of this video, is just simply what all goes into the production process of making a YouTube video. You could apply these techniques pretty much to any video, but since I'm on the YouTube platform as my primary platform, that's mainly what I'm going to be focusing on. And my first priority in making my videos, and it kind of has been since the beginning, is trying to enhance the quality. I continuously, every video I make, I want to make it better than the one before. And that includes a whole lot of different things, from the gear that I use, to the lighting setup, to the way that I frame the shot, the way that I set up the focusing, the white balancing, and even the editing process and what I decide to cut and what I decide to keep in the video. All of that to me has a lot to do with the final product and what you get out of it. What I did is I worked out the basic process, which is basically 6 steps that you have to go through in order to create a video or create some content for a channel like YouTube. And what I did is I actually started in reverse. I started with the product, and specifically that I wanted to create a high quality video that was pleasing to watch and listen to, and which was both entertaining and informative, that encouraged people to watch it through to the entire end. That was kind of the overall product that I wanted to have. Then I worked backwards on the sequence on what does it take to put into a video in order to get that as your product. And basically I'm going to take you through those 6 steps. Now I'm not going to take you backwards through it, I'm going to actually start with the very first step. So step number 1 I like to call the idea box. Now this is not necessarily required for every single video that you make. If you're just trying to vlog your day, you might not need a step like this at all. But I do find it very, very handy if you're going to be sitting and talking to a camera for a little bit, that you want to have some basic ideas about what you're going to talk about. It just makes it easier and you flow a little bit better as you're going through the video. Plus, I also find that it makes editing a little bit easier later. Now, I find myself doing this all the time. Sometimes I'll just whip out my phone and open the little notes app and I start writing down some ideas if I think about an idea for a video, or I might type it in Word, or I might just write it on paper. It really doesn't matter. You can use any of a million or unlimited different ways to kind of keep notes on something, but just having an overall idea or even a script, even if it's just a rough script, is not a bad idea to have when you're making a video. Then step number 2 would be the studio setup. I consider this the second step in the process. This is going to include the lighting you're going to use, the microphone setup, audio setup, and really just kind of the stage of the room where you're going to be recording that specific video. And it can be more than just a room, but I'm using room as an example because I often do mine in a room. But this is going to include your stage setup, whatever the stage happens to be for your particular video. And this step would include figuring out exactly what resources do you have to work with. What kind of camera do you have? Is it a smartphone? Is it a DSLR? Is it a mirrorless? What equipment do you have that you might need for this particular setup? And then working out your setup based on that equipment and setting it up the way you want. That's step number 2. Step number 3 would be the camera setup. This is when you're going to set up your camera physically on your tripod. You're going to pick your lens, you're going to pick your focal range, you're going to pick your f-stop, and you're going to get everything set up, including your exposure, your frame rate. Are you shooting a 4K video? Are you shooting 1080p? And getting everything set up the way that you need to make it as high a quality of a video as you possibly can. Now, I include in this step also the composition of your shot, because that is very important. You want to make sure that how the shot looks is pleasing to look at. That might include handling things like leading lines behind your subject, what does the lighting look like, what can you see in the shot, and even cleaning up the space to make sure that it looks presentable. Now, step number 4 is probably the most important step of all, and that's the actual filming of your project. Whatever the content is that you're trying to create and put on YouTube, of course, has to be filmed. Clearly, if you don't have anything filmed, you don't have anything to show, so there's no video. So this is obviously a very important step. Now, in the filming step, I also include making sure that your audio is in sync. A very important thing to remember, especially if you're using an external microphone, is that you want to record sound in both the camera and the external, and make sure that the volume or the input gain on your camera is loud enough to pick up your voice so it's easy to sync up the audio in post when you're going to edit later. Now, step number 5 is your editing process. There's quite a few different editing programs out there. I use DaVinci Resolve in particular. I'm very, very happy with it, and I've been using it now for over a year. I used to use Adobe Premiere. A lot of people use Adobe Premiere. It's still extremely popular. For me, I found that it was too expensive considering the amount of videos I really have time to produce on an annual basis. Having said that, now that I've been using DaVinci Resolve consistently for a year, even when I get to the point where I'm producing a lot more content again, I don't see myself switching back. I absolutely love DaVinci Resolve, but I'll do other videos on that. This video is not about the editing software. It's more about just the overall fact that you have to edit your video in order to get toward your final product. Now, the video editing process has also some basic steps which you're gonna do no matter what software you're using. You've got the general kind of overall cutting and editing of your clips to get them in the rough sequence that you want. Then you have various editing techniques such as slow motion if you want to do that with B-roll or things like that. You've got different ways of cutting, different ways of overlaying audio on top of different video clips, etc. Then you've got your B-roll that you can add in. Then you've got music to add to the background, sound effects if you want to use them, which I think add a nice spice to most videos. Then you've got color grading, your finishing touches, and ultimately the final product that you're happy with, that you're ready to publish on YouTube. All of those steps are kind of contained within this overall step number 5 of this process. And then we arrive at the final step, step 6, and this is the final product. Now you're ready to export, or you've already exported. That's all part of this step. And at this point is when you're going for that high quality video that is pleasing to watch and listen to, and which is entertaining and informative, but keeps people interested enough that they want to watch the whole thing. If you keep that in mind as the product you're going for, from beginning to end, even while you're editing, you have a better chance of coming closer to that. Now, I don't claim that all of my videos, or even any of them, have fully achieved that. However, I feel like as long as each video puts me closer to having that ideal product, then I feel pretty good about what I'm doing, and I feel like I'm improving and I'm getting better. And again, I want to share that with other people and teach others how I get and do what I'm doing, and hopefully they can take that and learn something from it and then make an even better video than what I can make. I mean, there's people out there that I watch their channels all the time that make these amazing videos, and I get inspired by it. I think I really want to make one as good as that. And I think that's a really fun thing to strive for, because what else am I doing with this? It's actually a form of art, and art contains a message that you want to communicate to people. So that's my basic sequence that I've come up with on how to create a high quality video for YouTube. Keep watching for more videos. I plan to post more. Right now, as I mentioned, this is kind of a hobby channel. I don't know how fast I'm going to be able to get content online, but I'm sure as heck going to try to get it out there as fast as I can, because I'm interested in it and I'm interested in sharing what I know with other people.